and welcome to Right for America, issues that unite, don't ignite. I am your host, Cindy Gross, also known as the Jewess Patriot, but you don't have to be Jewish to be a part of our show. In fact, we encourage everybody to participate in our lively discussions featuring facts and the latest trends and headlines. First, I have to tell you, like I do every week, the show, Right for America, does not endorse or does not support all the discussions that are here from our guest, and we are not responsible for any of their views here at Right for America, Cindy's Corners Productions, the America First Warehouse, or any of the stations that air the show. Second, as many of you know, I open up my show each and every week with my pearls of wisdom because my Jewish name is Zisel Perel, which means sweet pearl. So today, being what's going on around the world, we have 4 guests with us. And my pearls of wisdom to start the show is to let my guest speak because they can actually talk more or talk with me about what is going on and what is important to us. My first guest is calling us from Israel, right in the heart of what is going on in the war. And I'm so honored to have him because it's late at night there, and we all know what happens at night in Israel. But he was so kind enough to offer his time with us. I want to welcome Adam Bellis to the show. He is the CEO of the Israel Innovation Fund. He also is an author. He's very outspoken. He is a proud Jew and Zionist like myself. And I've been following him. And Adam, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk with my audience and share what is going on.
Thank you for having me, Cindy. I really appreciate it. How are you doing over there?
Well, I am sure as good as we are doing, it's quite a different experience because I did follow how one day you were sitting at a coffee shop and the next day you shared that it was one of the buildings that unfortunately was the site of an attack from Iran and how 24 hours can make a difference in your life. Tell us exactly what is going on. This is a Jewish and non-Jewish audience that supports Israel and supports you, and thanks you for taking the risk to talk with us.
There's no risk to talk to you, so let's
Great.
get that out of the way.
Great.
Life is going on. A lot of things are closed right now. It's rather interesting what's going on. At any moment, we could receive alerts to go to our shelters. I was working out this afternoon for the first time since this whole thing had began, and I was very happy to be doing so. And I was interrupted on the elliptical this afternoon. I was not happy about it, and let my followers know that I was not happy about it. I think it's very interesting. Everybody's on edge. It's like one long Shabbat, so to speak, not necessarily a Shomer one, but it has that kind of atmosphere in Israel right now. There are a few cafes open in the center of the city, but very few businesses are open. And I want to highlight that for a very specific reason. A lot of American Jews do not really, or really just anyone outside of Israel, do not understand the economic effects this war has had on the everyday Israeli. Businesses have closed, interest rates have skyrocketed. So if you're not working, your mortgage has probably gone up in terms of its payments. We've seen a number of Jewish organizations not send funds to where they're supposed to be going. We've seen an obsession of the American Jewish influencer that is very disconnected from the realities here, calling what's happening here games or saying, okay, now it's getting serious. I think it's time that we work as a Jewish community and a global community to close the gap between Israel and the rest of the Jewish population, specifically North America. I think that we've seen a rising tide of anti-Semitism that will ultimately be reflected in what's going to happen over here. And that's what's going on right now. People are on edge. People are quiet. We're staying in our homes. We're not traveling long distances because we don't want to be stuck in this situation in a car. And that's the reality. I'm kind of sitting on edge because I was told around 9 o'clock the next barrage of rockets are coming. So that's where we're at.
And it's 9 o'clock in Israel. I have to tell you, I became a huge fan of yours because of something you just said. For 2 years, I've been saying the same thing, and I've lost a lot of friends. I've had invitations rescinded. I work now on 3 Trump campaigns, and I see the difference in attitudes. This influencer idea that influencers can somehow run a government and can tell everybody what to do, when I'll be honest with you, World War II, they did not have influencers telling Churchill what to do. And I don't think that we really know what Bibi and Trump are discussing, despite the fact the whole world thinks they know what's going on. So
Yes.
I have totally become a fan of yours because I've been saying this for 2 years now. It's legislation, getting the right people in, and actually spending money the right way. You also pointed that out. There are too many organizations here that are now sending out flyers. They're having Zoom meetings to collect money. But you know what? This onslaught of anti-Semitism is nothing new. 10 years ago this
We're
month, we
definitely
were
not
signing
going
the
to
original
see.
Iran nuclear deal.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to see influencers solve the anti-Semitism problem with their content. And I think, most adeptly, was when they fake released the Epstein files and they brought right-wing influencers, specifically a few Jewish ones, to showcase an empty binder. And both Megyn Kelly and Ben Shapiro called out the behavior. And I think it's just telling of those who complied with it, creating false content. In addition to that, I'd like to see a number of the influencers who were partying while Israel was under rocket fire during Yom Ha'atzmaut for a Zaka event, and now we know that millions of dollars are missing from Zaka. And I think those influencers need to apologize for promoting this organization that clearly has misappropriated funds. I just find that there's a very clear disconnect with the American Jew in general and Israel and what Israelis are going through and experiencing. I did just spend 10 months in America. It was a feeling like a fish out of water. And, I do find that there is this problem with the children that are younger than me, also who experienced COVID during high school. There is a lack of finished social skills. There is a need to constantly be on the phone and have immediate instant gratification, so to speak. There is a need to showcase a talent of expertise that is not earned. And I find it to be rather interesting. And I think that it's absolutely fascinating. Well, actually, I don't find it to be fascinating because this is just a continuation of the same model that has been used in the Jewish organized world for many years. And at the end of the day, instead of focusing on themselves and focusing on the anti-Semitism problem at home and focusing on the problems that were right in front of American Jewry's face, they've spent the last 5 years lecturing Israel on what type of country Israel should be, instead of realizing that the enemy was growing in their own backyards. And we can totally see that with the failure of the ADL and, the $1 million compensation package that not only their CEO has, but another 10 or 20 individuals who also have that as well. Anti-Semitism has become a business for many Jews, in my opinion, and it's fattened the wallets of many Jews. And I don't say that in some conspiratorial way. It is very clear that the Jewish community in America, in North America, did not have the leaders that took anti-Semitism, both from the left and the right, seriously to prepare the community in order to safeguard it and keep it. Ehad Ha'am once wrote, "I live for the sake of the perpetuation of the community to which I belong. I die to make way for others who would save the community and remold it and prevent it from stagnating." And we don't see that with American Jewish leaders today. We don't see that at all. And we saw a huge fighting of the Trump administration, which we now know has done more for Israel in both of its terms than Barack Obama or President Biden did, or as
Barack
many of us
Obama
like to
actually
refer.
caused a lot of this now that's going
We
on.
are in this position right now because of Barack Obama. I would completely agree with that. And Barack Obama didn't invent anti-Semitism. He mainstreamed it and allowed it to grow by creating the daylight between Israel and the United States that never existed before. So, like, going back to really quickly, and then I'll finish up, but going back to what I was trying to say is that the Jewish community's leadership is always worried about what people think instead of standing up for what is right. And talking about anti-Semitism wasn't popular, and talking about the radicalism wasn't popular. And because it wasn't popular, they didn't want to deal with it, and they did exactly what Barack Obama did with Iran, try to kick it down the line. Sorry for the
No, I agree with you
diatribe.
100%, and that's why I'm so glad you're here and that you're able to share this with us from the front lines, because when I say these things to people, I get looks like I'm crazy. I don't know. I've been saying this a long time. I feel exactly the way you do. The Jews look to appease everybody and want to be a part of the party rather than stand up for what they are. We are in a trend. We aren't a reality TV show. We are a religion with laws that have survived thousands of years of anti-Semitism. We're going to thrive after this again. We are going through a tough time now, but we're going to come out stronger and better than ever. But it's not with the help of what's going on right now with social media and this idea that we have to know everything going on in the government when there are leaders that are elected and know what's going on and have the appropriate information and have the right contacts. I can't thank you enough for joining us. Anything last? Yeah, 1 minute before we have to get to our next commercial. So tell us.
If you're Jewish, train in self-defense, get a gun, learn how to use it, and learn how to protect your family and your friends.
Well, that is something that a lot of Jews are talking about in America. Thank you so much, Adam Bellos from Jerusalem, and stay safe. Now we're going to have one of our friends who's been here before, one of the leaders in the American journalism scene. We're going to talk about Israel and what's going on in the United States. We had breaking news right before we went to air. Our good friend from the Queens Jewish Link and the Bakarian Jewish Link, Yaakov Searle, is here, and we have so much to discuss. And I'm sure he was listening in what's going on in Israel because he has family and friends in Israel like I do. Welcome to the show, Yaakov.
Thank you so much, Cindy. You say that I have family in Israel. It just so happens my daughter came in for a wedding on Wednesday night, and she came in with her infant 2-month-old baby, my grandson, and she's right now in America with and left her husband and 8 children. And she's in a situation that many others are on. We're doing everything we can to try to get her back on a plane, and it makes it very difficult when Ben Gurion Airport is closed and there's no flights, and people are going through Egypt and Jordan and Cyprus, and we're checking all the avenues. We're happy to have her here. We're happy to have our grandson here, but she wants to get back to her family, and that's the situation we're in right now.
Well, we have a lot to discuss. First of all, I just want to say that for everybody who says people want to run away from Israel, it's in wartime. Yesterday, it was reported that over 200,000 people are trying to get flights to Israel. They want to be in their homeland. They want to support the Jewish state, whether or not they are Israelis or lone soldiers from other countries. So the thought that people are abandoning Israel is completely false. But Yaakov, you're in Queens, and you have the pulse of the Jewish community in New York, and anti-Semitism is such a big issue right now. The war has brought out a lot of anti-Semites on social media, but we have in New York, we are now in the process of early voting for the mayoral primary and the Democratic primary, and Jews in New York are frightened. Tell us what you are hearing on the streets in Queens.
100%. There's one candidate that everyone should make sure that he that he is not on your ballot, and that is Mamdani. The person is a anti-Semite. He wants to defund Israel. He wants to arrest Netanyahu if he comes to America, if he comes to New York. I mean, he has so much on his list that is so bad. I mean, it sounds like he's I don't know, a socialist, a Nazi. I don't know, but he's definitely not for New York and not for the Jewish people.
He's not for
And
anybody. He wants homeless to sleep on the subways. He wants, I mean, defund the police. He really, first, even the New York Times wrote a scathing article against him, calling him worse than Bill de Blasio.
Exactly. So we have not so many better choices, but we have actually there. I mean, we have Whitney Tilson, which he's not even in the polls, but he's running, and Scott Stringer is running, and
of course, Andrew Cuomo is
running.
the one that
Yeah.
most of the Jewish community leaders are endorsing because he is the only one that could possibly beat Mamdani. Right now, Mamdani is in the lead. But before we came on air, there was breaking news about Brad Lander, and he was arrested by
getting
ICE.
arrested by ICE. Yeah, it was a very interesting situation over there with Brad Lander getting arrested, trying to defend a criminal immigrant. That I mean, this is typical. We just had a senator that went to Venezuela to drink margaritas with a Venezuelan, with a criminal. So I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. It's crazy. It's just insane. What's going on?
I just don't understand, Jewish or non-Jewish, how any American wants their tax dollars to go to illegal immigrants who don't like America when they're struggling. It's not the same as immigration 50 or 100 or 150 years ago. There weren't all these handouts. People had an allegiance to America. It was totally different. And if people really learned the facts about immigration at Ellis Island, they would not be able to compare it to what's going on today. When the last language in elementary schools is English, when people don't know, how to get a job because their jobs are being given by preference to illegals, this is a big issue. I just don't understand where Americans' heads are at. But let's talk about Israel. Let's talk about Israel a little bit because it's on the minds of every one of your readers, every one of your followers. And of course, even though it's called the Queen's Jewish Link, your paper is distributed, I know, throughout the tri-state area, and people read it internationally online. How are people reacting to what is going on in Israel?
I think in the community that I live in, I think everyone's 100% behind Israel. And Israel, I mean, I made a video yesterday about, the situation with my daughter and how everyone has to be 100% with Israel at this point. It's a no-brainer. I mean, that at this point, Israel has taken out most of the nuclear reactors. They've also taken out most of the leaders. And if our president gets involved, I think the whole Middle East could change on a dime. And I think that'll have a lot of effect on the anti-Semitism. Hopefully, it'll quell the situation to a certain extent. And I mean, like you said, 200,000 people want to go to Israel. It's at the point. I mean, my feeling is, it's Chevle Mashiach. We're in historical, unprecedented times. The times are so much in our favor at this point, and this is the opportunity that every Jew has to really make a stance and be proud of who they are and who Israel is. And I get that feeling from the whole community, from my family, from community, whether they're religious or secular, everybody is supporting Israel at this point, and at least in the people that I know.
So I have to tell you, I have been very vocal. I'm probably one of the few people. Look, I've supported President Trump now 3 terms. I ran for Congress as a pro-Trump candidate. I was on the National Diversity Coalition in 2020. And I have to tell you that I've been very skeptical about a lot of these MAGA people who kept calling me when they wanted Jewish money, when they wanted help from, Jewish influencers, when they wanted help how to get connections. And I think we're seeing right now this week, if anything, who stands with Israel and who doesn't. I don't want to hear you're a Christian Zionist and then you turn your back on Israel now. A true Christian Zionist stands with Israel through thick and thin. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that we are learning since Thursday about who are real Zionists and who aren't.
Cindy, the people that we went to Israel with Pete Hegseth and Mike Huckabee, I think they're 100% behind Israel. Those people that I think our trips had a big influence on them. Huckabee came out with a statement today that was unbelievable. That 100% behind Israel. He's doing all the right things, and Pete Hegseth definitely wants to defend and do the right thing with the military, and just these people are just I know you're talking about some of the MAGA
we won't
people
mention the people that are
turning.
but I will be talking a lot
But we
about
also
it.
have to look. We also have to look at the positive ones, the ones that are doing.
That's right. Let's focus on the positives. That's
The
right.
ones that are doing it, like Pete and Mike Huckabee, they're definitely behind us. I'm sure Marco Rubio is, and there's you don't know. Some people turn on a dime, but I think the people that we know are standing with Israel and will do
Absolutely. I can tell you that 100%. And I trust that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who we both know, as we both experienced Israel with him, he knows Israel inside and out. He's been on multiple trips there with mutual friends of ours. And I'm sure he knows what he is doing. And I keep telling people, stop sitting on social media for information. What they know, they're not sharing with us.
Right. I think Netanyahu and Donald Trump know what they're doing. It's a chess game. I mean, for Donald Trump, it's a chess game, and he seems to be making the right moves, and I think that the team of Netanyahu and Donald Trump is gonna come through, and we're gonna see great things. And what's funny, Cindy, is that at this point, after every speech, Netanyahu says Baruch Hashem, thank God. He knows it's not just him or just the Israeli army. He knows that God is behind. I mean, to have 100 missiles come at once and not every pilot come back safe and sound, and to destroy the majority of the nuclear reactors all in one shot. I mean, that's bigger than the beepers and the cell phones. It was like I said to my kids, this is the beepers on steroids. It's tragic that there are lives being lost, but it could have been a lot worse, and hopefully we'll get through this and it'll be over as quickly as it started. Let's hope it's like the 6-Day War and just end it, and Iran should be decimated, Hamas should be decimated, all the hostages should come back, and that's what they're talking about. I think they know where the hostages are. They know where Khomeini is. Trump said today he knows exactly where he is. If I want to get him, I'll get him. It's like, they have to bring down the regime, basically.
Well, it's amazing. Today, I heard a lot of discussion with hostages. It's amazing how many other countries want to get involved in this. And it's
Yeah.
really quite amazing how a little country like Israel has figured out how to do all this miraculous work. Thursday, I was at a congressional luncheon, and we
Yeah.
got on the bus 5 o'clock, and within an hour, we were sitting on the bus, and we heard what happened, and we were with people like Senator Ted Cruz and Congressman Randy Fine and Congressman Jared Moskowitz and Chip Roy and about 30 others. And not one said a word or gave a hint about what was going on. It was quite amazing to see and hear this.
Wow. And they probably all knew what was going on. They all knew. Yeah.
You
I'm
had to
sure they
assume
all
some
knew.
of them with their intelligence knew what was going
Yeah.
on.
And they don't
So
talk.
before
Wow.
before we close,
Yes.
and thank you for all this insight. I just want to remind everybody again, next Tuesday is the New York primary. Remember, Eric Adams is an independent, so he's going to be running as an independent, unopposed. So he's going to be on the slate in November. And
Right.
also, Curtis Sliwa is the Republican and the conservative candidate, and he's on the slate for November, unopposed. So they're not in a primary.
Yeah.
But
Right,
the
in
primary
New
is for
York.
Democrats, and you're also doing a Democratic comptroller. You're also doing Democratic borough presidents. Just remember, no choice ranking for Mandani. Number one should be Cuomo, and number two should be who? Tell us.
I would say Tilson. I mean,
That's right. I
Tilson
believe
and,
that's who the Jewish community is supporting.
Tilson and Stringer. I mean, all it is the best of the worst, basically.
That's
And
right.
for controller, Mark Levine, and for public advocate with Jen Rajkumar, because I think Jamani has the best chance, but he's not good for us. It's not,
No.
it's not much. He doesn't make it into much of a job. She would at least work if she did it, But I think that's who the Queens community is going with. Those three.
Well, everybody, go online if you can't get it in
By the way,
person. Get the
did you see
Queens
today
Jewish
that
link.
Saudi Arabia-
I'm sorry.
Did you see today Saudi Arabia is helping Israel at this point?
I
against
heard
the
that.
Houthis.
But we've got to go to a hard commercial. So I'm
Okay,
going to
yeah.
just say Yaakov Searle from the Queens Jewish Link and the Bukharian Jewish Link. Get it in the tri-state area. It's great reading. Plus, you can get it online internationally. He'll be back. He's one of our big Jewish contacts. Thank you so much for the updates.
Thank you for having me, Cindy. Thank you
Thank
so much.
And now we have a very good friend of the America First Warehouse. You know him from his show Media Exposed. You know him from lots of interviews with Real America's Voice with David Zier. And you know him the way I know him for 10 years already, supporting, working with the Trump administrations. Adam Weiss, another Jewish Republican in the media, here to discuss what's going on in Israel and around the United States. Adam, I know how busy you are, so thank you so much for joining us.
We have some fanatic going on. The city, the controller was just arrested, in New York City, trying to protect illegals from being taken by ICE. So the news moves so fast and smack in it. It's chaotic. It moves fast in the Trump era, like Trump 2.0 again.
So, Adam, you are like me. I know you, like I said, yesterday was 10 years since he came down the steps, and we've been there since the beginning. I mean, you're friends with the Trump family. You've been to so many events in Bedminster, in Mar-a-Lago, in Washington, in New York. I have to tell you, I couldn't be any prouder of supporting President Trump with how he's been standing with Israel, especially this week, and a lot of the criticism he's faced from his own supporters, which has been very disappointing. Tell us what's going on in your mind and what you're hearing.
The ironic thing is, a client just said, Adam, I want to meet some senators, and I'm going to give X amount of money for high level Silicon Valley. I says, a bunch of them are on my phone already. So all that hard work pays off sometimes. There seems to be such a division because, Trump ran on America first, America first. He ingrained that into the American psyche so much, where under Reagan and the older Bush, we would always be like, of course, we're going to defend our friends and stand up for the Western European bloc, stand up for Israel. It was a natural occurrence that America would stand up for democracy that were fighting against tyrants, fighting against communism, fighting against, you got to understand, Israel's surrounded by how many enemies? Imagine you lived in a yard and everybody wants to kill you. They're not just your enemy, they want to kill you, right? So we stood up for Israel. Now it's because of what he ran on and because focus has been so many of these, pro just only American. There's a split in the conservative movement right now that's really shaping up. And Trump took a little pot shot at Tucker Carlson, one of the bigger voices in the conservative movement. He's an isolationist, and he's been going at it for weeks with Mark Levin too, who's, ideologically, they're all pretty much on the same camp. But when it comes to international affairs and Israel, I don't know if I want to call them anti-Semites, but they're just really straddle the line with Israel. They always have a little bit of problem with Israel, some of these folks, right?
Well, I have to tell you, I know Mark Levin's family. I know the people in his family that are working in Israel right now. And I can tell you, I support Mark 100%. He's absolutely on the money with what he's discussing. It's not as if Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu didn't have a great relationship during 45 and were ready to extend the Abraham Accords before the questionable 2020 election, which now this morning was news broken about from Kash Patel that he has now documents that the Chinese were involved in the 2020 election. So that's going to be very interesting also to see. Tell us what's coming up on Media Exposed.
Well, we're going to cover the riots, obviously. We're going to cover some of this chaos in Israel because every time we go back to an Israeli issue, Jewish issue, not only the American media, the international media is always biased against Israel, and by the time they're done with their false reporting, whether it's Reuters or the AP or Washington Post, the cleanup has to be done, and yet the damage is already done, right? So we're going to cover that. We're going to cover President Trump, having a little infighting with some people. So, and a lot of this, border immigration stuff is important too. So we're going to cover that again as well.
So I do have to ask you one last question. You do know about the Trump phones with Donald Trump Jr. and Eric. Are you going to do anything with that? Because I know
I didn't make it there yesterday, but I saw a tweet early in the morning. I didn't know about the press release. But actually somebody reached out from the Hamptons and said, why don't they do some events out here and sponsor them? And I said, that's a pretty good idea. If they can market the mobile product out in the Hamptons or all around New York, it might be interesting to do. But I don't know, is it physical phones? They can also have physical phones, but they're going to have all sorts of inexpensive plans for all of America. Why not? I guess it's a powerful brand that they keep moving forward, right?
I definitely see the parties in the Hamptons with you promoting that phone and working again with Donald Trump Jr. and Eric. Adam Weiss, as always, you have your pulse on everything. You're always everywhere, front and center. And we don't have too many strong MAGA Jewish Republicans in the media, and also those that work behind the scenes to help promote Israel, fighting anti-Semitism, coalition building with Jews and non-Jews in the MAGA movement. So I really appreciate you taking the time out to come on to Write for America. And remember, everybody, Sundays, what time are you on?
Sunday, 6 p.m. on Real America's Voice News. Check us out. Download the app. It's free, or catch it on every streaming platform. It's always great seeing you, Cindy, and let's hope for the best for America. And hopefully it's quick, and we don't want too many lives to be lost anywhere.
Correct. And you could also find Adam a lot at the America First Warehouse. He's here live at a lot of the events.
Right, Or you can find me on my Instagram. People live vicariously through me just on my Instagram, Adam5PR.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, I think we had a lot about Israel, New York, and anti-Semitism, but there's a lot of other news going on. And the rest of my show is going to be about the corruption in the Department of Justice. And I'm very, very honored to have my dear, dear friend, somebody who actually has been to the America First Warehouse, 3-time Emmy winner, Martha Byrne. She is here to discuss her brand new book, and more important, she is a real warrior, and she's going to tell you about her crusade that she and her husband have been going through about just how corrupt our system is, our justice system is, and how you and I have to change it, because there are so many people like us who are actually victims of a corrupt system where people are making millions and doing things that are actually hurting all Americans. So, Martha, thank you for joining Right for America.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure, Cindy. It's been an honor to become your friend, and I just think you're fantastic. So let's talk about the DOJ and all the other things that go along with this overreach, as they call it. I don't know, some people tuning in kind of learn about my husband was falsely arrested by the FBI in October of 2020 for legal private investigative work, and they charged him with acting as a foreign agent for China, which he wasn't. He did nothing illegal, committed no crime. So we decided to fight back because he had done nothing wrong, and we're still fighting this. There was so much that went on through this process, Cindy, and I think that most Americans don't understand how the Department of Justice wins 99% of their cases. That's not by accident. That is a playbook. That's also indicting people 99.9% of the time they get indicted. So those odds are very much in the favor of the Department of Justice. So they assume you're going to take a plea deal, and the discovery, the research will never see the light of day. They make it a national security case in my husband's case, so we can't even see certain information, and they fight to keep it hidden. And our discovery was encrypted, so we couldn't even open it, majority of it, which was extremely wrong. I mean, it's just wrong in the justice system. I think, to be able to prepare for a trial, you need to see your evidence and discovery. So anyway, there's countless shocking revelations that I found when we were fighting this. And, there has been change since Donald Trump when he won, thank God he won. And there has been change even since he has been inaugurated about that, which is Pam Bondi has made changes due to our case, I believe, which is great. It's progress, but we still have a long way to go. I mean, my husband was given 18 months in federal prison for committing no crime because he didn't have remorse for the alleged victims, but the alleged victims were criminals, and we were not allowed to talk about that at trial at all. So, it's an absolute nightmare. But I told my husband from the beginning, you did nothing wrong. We have to fight this. And, you need about $2 million at minimum to really fight a case like this properly. And we didn't have that. So we just really would go month by month, figure it out. And our lawyers thankfully worked with us, but we're still going. It's still, we will appeal. We filed a pardon with the president. It's being reviewed right now. A clemency, this case should be completely thrown out. And we're working on that. We're going to get him exonerated fully. We're going to clear his name. And we're working on that literally every day, every hour to this date.
So your story is very carefully documented in a brand new book by Post Hill Press. Do you have a copy of it around?
Did I have? I'm a terrible
promoter.
Wait a minute, I do in the other side of the room, but.
So tell us all about the
me.
book. It's available on Amazon.
It is, and Cindy Gross, you are the magic behind the book getting into my life and making it happen. So thank you for that. And
tell everybody the title.
in the interest of justice, and it has been getting 5-star reviews, which is extremely humbling for me to write my life and expose everything emotionally about our journey. And also the research that I did was extremely extensive on this case. So it has some soap opera moments in there. I lost 2 of my closest friends who I worked with on As the World Turns, Elizabeth Hubbard and Lisa Brown, during this time. And I still haven't properly mourned their loss, but it happened during this hellish time. And so there's discussions about faith and getting through difficult times, but also exposing the tactics and the playbook that most Americans would never know, because nobody reads trial transcripts. Nobody dives into those cases. Even the press in our case never covered the trial. They never did anything with it. Nothing, zero coverage of the trial, zero. So when a high-ranking Wuhan official, who was the alleged victim in this case, took the stand, I looked around going, doesn't anybody want to hear what this guy has to say? I mean, he was like the mayor of Wuhan or something like that. Doesn't anybody? Nope, nobody covered it. So the media role, I dive into that, and I kind of get to the roots of where that started. So there's a mystery. There's you kind of have to stay tuned as you turn the pages. But, I wrote the book in 6 weeks because I had to, and it was challenging, but it was so important, Cindy. It was so important to tell the story, so it's on the record for my family, for the world, for education, all of it. So, in reading the reviews, I always open that with one eye to see if people are able to follow it or care or get it, and they're completely understanding and getting it and feeling it and connecting to the story. And as an actor or writer, I've written for television, you have to jump from the page to the screen. Here, you're just jumping from the page to the heart of the reader, and you're not there, and you have no performance with you're just the words. It's just the words, which words are beautiful and really do set the tone for a good story. It's like any script that I've read. If the words are there, it's like it becomes easy for an actor to do it. So it's landing with people. It's getting attention. We've had people come forward who have not just read the book, and learning things that they didn't know about the case have come forward, and very brave people have reached out and are helping us. So I really believe when Donald Trump hears the details of this case, he's going to be horrified about how the FBI in New Jersey, Red Bank office, treated Mike and really helped the CCP and worked with CCP agents and not law enforcement, U.S. law enforcement. I think it's the same playbook. Cindy, I am so tired of people saying that Donald Trump is a 34-time convicted felon. The reason why people say that is because they don't know what happened. They don't know how they got to the number 34 to do that. It was all smoke and mirrors. There was no victim, but it didn't matter. If they want to get you, they're going to get you. And
That's right.
It's so tired of hearing that. Oh, he's a convicted felon. It's like, well, when you split the jury and you give them jury instructions that have probably never happened before, if you're determined to get the person, like in our case, we were not allowed to put evidence in. Exculpatory evidence was hidden. We couldn't talk about my husband's incredible career in the NYPD with 78 medals. We couldn't talk about a $30 million lawsuit against the alleged victim. We weren't allowed to talk about it. So when they stacked the deck, and then no one testified against my husband, not one person testified against him. The case agent didn't testify. When you make up a story and you feed it to a jury and suppress the other evidence, well, those are your odds. That's the kind of things you're facing. I was shocked. I've never, my husband's NYPD. So he would always say, we couldn't do this. We would get fired. We'd lose our pension. If you lie on a search warrant, if you make up a story, if you create a case that doesn't exist, you are not only fired, lose your pension, you could go to jail, which you should. If you're creating a case against an innocent man, you should go to jail. I'm sorry, but not in the federal system. They have immunity, they get away with it, but not anymore. I'm sorry. There has to be accountability in this case, and I'm working on that every day. And I filed complaints officially, and we have to be the voice of the voiceless, and that's kind of, I feel like what we are right now.
So I just want to tell a couple. First, I want to tell a couple things about the book. First of all, when I submitted the book to the editor, and it was accepted right away, Martha happens to be a really talented writer, and a lot of books don't get done so quickly, but this was easy because it's easy to read and it's very understandable for the common person to, with the humor that she put into it, with the faith and the feelings and little anecdotes that make it fun. So it really is a great read. But you brought up something that's so important where I related to you because I have a lawsuit. And because I still can't get, after 12 years, my discovery. And because I can't get all my witness testimony in. And because a lot of the people that I accused of doing things are no longer even in New York. Some of them aren't even alive anymore.
Right.
So when they want to stack the case against you, they will. I am working right now diligently on whistleblower protections actually being followed correctly by the law. This is not a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. This is a common sense issue. It doesn't really matter at this point that Donald Trump was convicted of 34 whatever and that he had to pay so much money because he's the president of the United States. He made $660 million last year, according to records released on Friday. He is going to be fine. He has the media exposure like nobody else has. You are still a celebrity, and you do have a following. But for the average person struggling from paycheck to paycheck, who doesn't have that access, it's a death warrant for exposing the truth, for helping others, for creating the American dream for somebody else. And we as Americans, if we want to be the real leaders in the world, we have to be honest and responsible. And we must do better at whistleblower protections. We must expose the corruption, and we must protect those that help expose it at any cost.
Agree 100%. And I'm telling you, I already have several cases that people have come to me that I'm going to help people. I'm proud to do it. I want to be that light in the darkness that can help. I feel that I've always been blessed with this opportunity to have a public forum. And my mother, when I started at Annie on Broadway, my mother, when I was 10, my mom said, you have to give back. You are been given such a wonderful gift to have this opportunity. You must give back. So I did a lot of charity work, obviously, and things like that. But here I am, taking meetings with Congress and going down to DC all the time and getting in the doors for any way I can. And I just knock on another door if I don't get the right one. But I want to be able to use that for other people and set some standards here because, like I said, Pam Bondi already has clarified the FARA law, F-A-R-A, Foreign Agents Registration Act. That's what they charged my husband with, even though there was no foreign connection to my husband, not one text message, nothing. And in October of 2024, James Comer's Oversight Committee on the CCP gave the DOJ a failing grade because of my husband's case. That's progress. And the rule of completion, Pam Bondi also talked about that. A defendant should be able to defend themselves. Like my husband couldn't put in his interrogation video. It's an hour and a half of his innocence. It proves exactly what happens in detail, and it was banned from being shown to the jury. Pam Bondi has addressed that issue on a large scale, saying a defendant should be able to defend themselves. You're going to stop these overreach cases when they lose immunity. So if they lie, they get charged with it. And you cannot handcuff a defendant to the point where that you're going to win, just to win. And Pam has made big strides in that. And I'm so happy that she has come right out of the gate saying, no, this has to be addressed. And that's just the beginning. We have a lot more work to do, and I'm happy to do it. I mean, not happy to do it, but I feel it's God doesn't give you more than you can handle. I don't know why he picked us to do this, but I'm happy to carry that. And my faith has gotten me through this. And I feel like God has given me this weight to carry because I can. And I have to carry others' weight too, because some people are so broken and they don't have the funds, they don't have anything, they have no support, they don't have family. I have all those things. I have God, family, and I had, a career where I had made some money. And again, to me, I can make more money, but my husband can't get back his integrity. What they did to my husband by calling him a Chinese spy put our family in danger. They purposely put out false news and false information into the media that he was working for the Chinese government. That came from the DOJ. That came from the Eastern District of New York press release, okay? That should be a crime because, the death threats come and all these other things come because they're putting a bullseye on my husband's and my family's back. I'm not okay with that. There needs to be accountability for that. Who did that? Who was responsible for that, putting out those lies? And I called them out on the media. I called them out, and some people took stuff down, which was incredible. There was a lot of influencers that actually took stuff down because I said, hey, you follow me. We follow each other. Why are you posting that? And they went, I had no idea it was your husband. It's like, well, okay, thank you for taking it down. It should never have gone out in the first place. So we are constantly putting out these fires. And what they did to my family is, and I don't use the word unforgivable because I have to be able to forgive, but I can't forgive you if you haven't told me that you want forgiveness and you haven't mea culpa'd it a little bit. They are continuing to punish my husband. They're trying to send him 502 miles away to a federal prison. And you know how I found that out? By accident last week. We had no idea that they were sending him 502 miles away, which violates Trump's First Step Act executive order. It is malicious and it is retaliatory because I've heard from everybody that it's so rare that you do not get, close to your family when you request it and the judge approves it. I found out by accident. Can you imagine? We had no idea where my husband was supposed to be yesterday at 2:00, but thank God we had asked for a medical extension for my husband. He is a 9/11 first responder and he needed to see his doctor. So we asked for an extension. And that's how we found out that he was supposed to be going to Michigan on Monday. Nobody told us. This is the kind of abuse I'm talking about. How can you tell a man that not where he's not going? They would have arrested him. He would have been a fugitive because he didn't know where he was going and nobody told him. So either that was deliberate to make a scene at my house again, which could have happened, or put him in somewhere where he would be hurt because he's a retired cop and put him in somewhere where he'd be in danger. If that turns out to be true, that someone deliberately did that, you don't think I'm going to try? I'm going to find out. I find out everything. People talk, and I will find out how this happened and how it ended up like that. It's not pretty. And just because you don't like me or like my book or like the fact that I'm exposing you, you don't continue to punish an innocent man because you don't like him. Let's take your feelings out of this. Let's talk about the facts. The facts is he did nothing wrong. And when the judge gives him the time because he's not remorseful, she knows, she saw it. She knows exactly who these people were. She knows their background and their crimes. It is public information, but we couldn't tell the jury about it, but the judge knows. So there's a lot of things about this case that are dirty, messy, ugly, corrupt, and people need to be fired and they need to be held accountable. And it's already happening. So I have faith that as long as we keep pushing, there will be more accountability and more exposure of what happened here. And that's how you create change, is exposing this.
Well, we do have to end, and very quickly tell everybody where they could get the book and the book title. And you are going to be back. We are going to celebrate, and we are going to work together to make sure that nobody goes through this. Because like you said, even right now, just think, yesterday Mike Lindell was sentenced and found guilty. And a couple of hours later, Kash Patel announced that they had corruption in the 2020 election. I think that's more than a coincidence. And we've got to start working together, regardless if you're an R or a D or an I. This is America. Exactly. And it could happen to your next door neighbor. It could happen to you, me. It could happen to your favorite restaurant owner. And we've got to work together to make sure it doesn't. Let the people that are real criminals go to jail and suffer the consequences that they made for themselves. Quickly, where's the book, where they can get it? And thank you so much for sharing this all with us.
Thank you. So it's In the Interest of Justice. And my picture's on the cover with my husband. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes & Noble, online. And it's in your doorstep within a day or two. And the reviews have been 5-star. I'm very humbled by that. So please pick it up. I feel like I want to share our story with you. And you can follow me on X, on Martha Byrne 10, and on Facebook, Martha Byrne. And I'm always having chats and talking to people. And I'm going to be making appearances and coming to see everybody because I want to thank people in person for their support.
I was just going to say, we're going to be around the country. I know you're going to be in California this weekend, and we're planning some stuff in Texas and other states. Martha Byrne, as always, thank you for being my friend, and thank you for joining Right for America.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I really wanted to do my closing pearls of wisdom, but we had 4 guests. We had a lot of headline news from Israel, from New York, from New Jersey, and from around the country. There is just so much going on. The best thing I could tell you, the best pearls of wisdom, is trust Donald Trump. He hasn't let you down yet, and he and Bibi have had a very long relationship. Remember, no relationship is 100%. A good relationship is 80-20, and they're on the same team. I will see you next week with Patriot Palates in the kitchen. Thank you for tuning in. This is Cindy Gross, the Jewess Patriot, Right for America, issues that unite, don't ignite. Thank you again so much for tuning in.